May 19th board meeting to order. Randy will do the roll call.
Commissioner Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Persky.
Here.
Commissioner Notch.
Here.
Commissioner Bertram.
Here.
All present.
Okay. And then I'll ask you to please rise. We'll do a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. We have some special people with us this morning. We are going to do well, first I suppose let's do the agenda. Any changes with the agenda? If not, the motion to approve the agenda would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Notch moves and Commissioner Persky and Clark a tie, but we'll give it to Persky for the second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now we'll do the presentation honoring one of our department directors. Mike, I'll let you take care of that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have the pleasure of honoring our own Jodi Teich, our county engineer, because Jodi was awarded the Urban County Engineer of the Year by the National Association of County Engineers for 2025. So we want to congratulate you, Jodi. We're happy we did this before your reappointment is on the agenda, just in case that goes awry. But so
No sense in wasting our time if that wasn't.
We have a proclamation that is ready for signature and presentation to you, and I think I will read that. It is whereas Jodi Teich, County Engineer for Stearns County, has demonstrated exemplary leadership and dedication in applying efficient engineering management principles and standards for the economic design, construction, maintenance, and operation of public works facilities, and whereas Jodi's service on numerous committees, her roles as president of the Minnesota Transportation Alliance and MCEA, as well as her current position as Minnesota State Director on the National Association of County Engineers Board of Directors, exemplify her outstanding commitment to the county engineering industry and her community. Whereas Jodi has actively promoted the profession through high school career days, community college events, and mentorship, fostering the growth of future engineers and reinforcing the importance of effective public works management. And whereas her leadership and contributions have earned her well-deserved recognition, including this prestigious NACE Urban County Engineer of the Year Award, highlighting her excellence in engineering management. And whereas the residents and colleagues of Stearns County, along with the Minnesota County Engineers Association, wish to honor Jodi for her dedication, innovation, and service to public infrastructure. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Stearns County Board of Commissioners hereby congratulates Jodi Teich on receiving the 2025 National Association of County Engineers Urban County Engineer of the Year Award, and expresses its deepest appreciation for outstanding contributions to public works and community development. Signed, Jeff Bertram, Board Chair. And we also have the pleasure of having the Carver County Engineer and Minnesota County Engineers Association President, Lyndon Robjent, and Washington County Engineer and National Association of County Engineers Secretary Treasurer, Wayne Sandberg, here to formally recognize Jodi as well.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Lyndon Robjent. I'm the Carver County Engineer and current president of the Minnesota County Engineers Association. On behalf of the Minnesota County Engineers Association, I'm honored to be here to help you recognize your county engineer, Jodi Teich, with the presentation of the National Association of County Engineers Urban County Engineer of the Year Award. It's a big deal. I'm joined today by Wayne Sandberg, the Washington County Engineer and current Secretary Treasurer of the National Association of County Engineers. Wayne will tell you a little bit more about NACE and the details of Jodi's award, but before I ask Wayne to come up, I wanted to say a few words about Jodi's contribution to Minnesota County engineering. Although she doesn't look it, and as you know, Jodi has been working in county engineering for almost 30 years, with most of it being right here at Stearns County, including being your county engineer since 2012. As mentioned, she served as the president of the Minnesota County Engineers Association in 2020 and the president of the Minnesota Transportation Alliance in 2021, and is the current North Central Region Vice President for NACE. Jodi has been recognized for her significant contribution to county engineering by receiving the MCA Outstanding County Engineer of the Year Award, the Minnesota Transportation Alliance William Karnarski Transportation Advocate Award, and the NACE Project Manager of the Year Award. I assume that was for that small, uncomplex Sauk Rapids Bridge project? Quite an accomplishment. I did some research on that one. What a project. Jodi has a statewide reputation of being a leader in public service and an expert in county engineering. Her passion for county work is unparalleled, as is evident by her service on multiple statewide committees, task forces, working groups, and research technical advisory panels, as well as her countless testimonies at the state legislature. What is the last day of the session today, right? Just kidding.
Don't remind us.
Throughout her career, Jodi has promoted our industry by participating in high school career days and special events at technical and community colleges throughout central Minnesota. What I can say, Jodi is always here to help us when called upon, and is a mentor and friend to us all, as you can tell by the folks in the room that are joining us today. So I'm very proud of her, Mr. Chair. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Wayne Sandberg to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I did check when she started working there, that was allowed, that you didn't have to have a driver's license to work there. So that she is as young as you. And if you wouldn't mind, Wayne, there's other engineers in the audience. I certainly want to recognize them as well.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, for the opportunity to be here today. As was stated, my name is Wayne Sandberg. I have the privilege to serve as the county engineer for Washington County. I also hold the position of Secretary Treasurer for the NACE Board of Directors this year. I'll acknowledge some of our other colleagues that are here today. Kristen Foster with Otter Tail County, Brian Gies with Pope County, and Chris Bird with Benton County. NACE is dedicated to advancing county-level transportation and infrastructure, and we have long recognized the contributions of our engineers who shape our communities. The NACE Urban Engineer of the Year Award is the highest honor bestowed by NACE, and is presented each year to an engineer who has demonstrated outstanding leadership, innovation, and excellence in county engineering. We're thrilled this year to celebrate Jodi, whose dedication and expertise have, as we've heard, have shaped her community, strengthened Stearns County, influenced Minnesota, and made an impact on the national engineering stage. Jodi is a champion for transportation innovation and infrastructure improvements, and she continues to mentor the next generation of engineers. Jodi's leadership with NACE and her commitment to national engineering remains strong. In addition to receiving this award, she has been elected as the North Central Vice President. She will be representing the states of Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana on the NACE Board of Directors moving forward. Being here to acknowledge Jodi is particularly special for me because I have had the privilege of knowing her for many years. We attended college together at the University of Minnesota back in the 1900s, or as my kids call it, the old times. But throughout the years, I have not only admired her professional accomplishments, but I've also been fortunate enough to be able to call her a friend. Jodi, your dedication, expertise, and passion for engineering have made a lasting impact, and on behalf of NACE and the entire engineering community, we extend our heartfelt congratulations on this well-deserved honor. Your work continues to shape the future of county engineering, and we are grateful for all that you do. Thank you, Jodi.
Well, it is an honor, Jodi. We certainly want to hear from you. She's blushed 3 times. I kept track, so it's worth it. But Jodi, congratulations. And
thank you, and thank you for the kind words. I'm a little bit speechless by my colleagues all in the room, and I feel like I need to pay them some money for all the kind things they just said about me in front of the board. I certainly couldn't do my job without the the camaraderie I have, and I know several county board members have joked about the camaraderie between the county engineers, and I think we all kind of help each other survive the hard times. And this award is actually a testament to the county board and to my staff. Without a county board and administration that wanted to be involved at the state and national levels, you wouldn't have department directors who want to be involved at the state and national level. So actually, thank you. This award is just as much for the county board. And I would be remiss. My husband wanted to be here today. He could not, but obviously our family, they kind of keep things going at home when we are attending meetings and going to the legislature and going to conferences and trying to represent the engineering community. So thank you very much. I'm a little bit humbled, so thanks.
Well, you should be very humbled and certainly well deserved. And just a couple of interactions I've had. The first one I had with the engineers was my first conference, and I won't tell the whole story, but the first conference, I didn't know what the program was, and there wasn't the dinner the first night. I didn't eat. Everybody else had eaten. Well, by the time I got to the restaurant, it was 12:30 to eat something for the night. And the engineers walked in. Well, that was an experience. I learned more in an hour and a half than I think I ever would. And of course, Jodi, we all have experienced this when we've got resident issues. She's there personally. She deals with it, addresses it, and it gets resolved. Doesn't always happen what the resident wants, but it gets addressed and resolved. And even though you're representing all those states and doing all those other things, you never forget where you came from and where you're. And the other thing I learned is that I always thought she was in the office all the time, and I'm still convinced because I drive by the highway office a lot on my way home. She parks her car there, I found out, and her husband picks her up, so it looks like she's there. But I still think that's part of it, but she is a dedicated person, so thank you. We'll ask the board and the representatives, we'll do a few pictures with the award and the resolution. Did we approve the resolution? I lost track. Nope, we did not. So why don't we make that official? Because I did sign it already. I'd have to tear it up otherwise. So let's do that. Let's have a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
So seconded.
We're all making it, and we're all seconding it. So Terrell moved it, and Steve seconded it. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. So that's official. So why don't we, the board and everybody come up here and we'll take some pictures.
Janet, are you ready? Yep. All right, good.
Ours won't be as nice as yours were. Ours is paper. But we're the one that's paying the salary, so. You could have had a nicer plaque and less salary, but we won't do that.
State budget cuts?
Any chance we could do 2 rows? Makes those not so spread out? Can you try to step in the front?
We've got it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. A couple people on this side, probably.
Yeah, and Jeff, I'm not, yeah, maybe in a, I just couldn't see it. I just want to put the flap behind it.
How's that?
Okay, that looks good. I think I see it. Joe, get your head a little bit closer to Jeff.
Sorry. It's not, this isn't gonna get much better than that.
I know. We'll go with this. We're good. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for coming. Well,
It was well said.
that's fun.
That was fun.
Yep, it's always nice to recognize someone that deserves it, so, well, I'll talk about that later. Next order of business would be the consent agenda. Any changes or additions? Not?
Sir.
A motion to approve the consent agenda would be in order.
So moved.
Commissioner Persky moves the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Clark seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved.
Mr. Chair, I was just first going to say, should we pull F8 just to make sure that we're okay?
Yeah,
After all that?
let's try to make her blush one more time. Next item of business is the auditor treasurer and Roxanne and Laura on elections. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're going to do a little update on the elections with the special election coming up, but there's some other activities too. And as you said, I have Laura Laudenbach, the Director of Elections and License Center, and Roxanne Garrett's the election supervisor. So we have an agenda, certainly covering some of the items that we had questions on and concerns. You know, some of this you're going to know, but for the public to get better information, I think this is important. If you have questions as we're going, certainly ask those. And with that, I'll turn it over to Laura.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Laura Laudenbach. I'm the Division Director of Elections and License Centers. We are going to be talking about the special election to fill the vacancy of Commissioner District 4. So the state has some very specific guidelines on how to do a special election, and we thought we'd kind of give you an overview of that. So after the vacancy was declared, because the term expires December 31st of 2026, it needs to be filled by a special election because it was more than 1 year remaining on the term. If it would have been less than 1 year, then that's when we, as the board, would have been able to appoint somebody. The county board called for the special election at the last board meeting, I believe, to hold a special election, and that has to be done on a uniform election date. So Minnesota has some very specific dates that we can hold for a county commissioner election. The first Tuesday in February, first Tuesday in April, first Tuesday in May, first Tuesday in August, and then first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So.
Yeah, the screen has it different, but I think.
Oh. Or second Tuesday.
Okay.
So when we will be doing the filing shortly, but the special primary election, if there is a primary, will be held on August 12th, which will be that second Tuesday in August. And then if there isn't a primary, we'll be holding the special election actually in the August timeframe. And just on a side note, for elections, we have had a special election on all of those dates this year except for the May one. So we've been pretty busy in this off-year election cycle. So for state vacancies, it's a little bit different. A vacancy for a senator or state representative shall be filled for the unexpired term by a special election upon writ of the governor. State vacancy special elections do not follow the uniform election dates like the county races do. So for candidate filing, so our filing period actually starts tomorrow. It will be held through June 3rd. It will be right here at the admin location in the auditor's office between the hours of 8 to 4:30. On the last day of filing, June 3rd, we are going to be open until 5. And then just a special note, Memorial Day is next Monday, May 26th, and we will not be open as a county on that day. If we have more than 2 people file, there will be a primary that prompts that August 12th primary. The filing fees are $50 for the county commissioner. You can also do a petition in place of the filing fee. If people have additional information on like what a commissioner does, the duties of a commissioner are listed on our county website. And then we also have the filing packets on there if they have additional questions. The candidate qualifications is that they must be eligible to vote in Minnesota, must not have been filed for another office at the upcoming primary or general election, must be 21 years of age, and then must have maintained residence in the district for at least 30 days before the general election. There's additional residency information in Minnesota Statute .031 if anybody has additional questions. So for candidate filing requirements, there was a law change this year. So we do, the phone number was a requirement already, a non-government issued email address, that was already a requirement. The residential address, the candidate now must present the filing officer. So if you come in tomorrow to do a filing, they have to provide valid identification or documentation and proof of residence. And that changed as of January 1st of this year. So they could bring their current driver's license. If that has their driver's license address is current, then that would be a qualification. And then this is the map of Commissioner District 4. As you can see, it contains all of Waite Park and the south side of St. Cloud.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. My name is Roxanne Garris. I'm the Election Supervisor for Stearns County. So as we prepare to get ready for the special election for Commissioner District 4, there is a little over 18,000 registered voters in that district. Absentee voting begins June 27th and will go until August 11th. And that is during our office hours, 8 a.m. to 4:30. And our absentee location will be at the Stearns County Service Center. We are also open at the Saturday before the election, which is August 9th. And we are open from 9 to 3 that day. In Commissioner District 4, there are 13 precincts. The majority of them are in the St. Cloud City South Side, and then the 4 precincts in Waite Park City. We'll have a total of 13 polling places. We've got 10 polling places, and then as we reached out to some of the polling places, there were 3 that were unavailable for those 2 election dates. So we had to relocate 3 of them, and by state statute, we can do that as an emergency procedure. So 3 polling places have been relocated because they are unavailable. Any residents or voters in those precincts will receive a notification of their polling place change for those 2 elections. The polling places that were unavailable was St. Cloud Ward 4P7, which was at the Center Care South Point. That was moved to the Grace United Methodist Church. And then some of you may know that the Waite Park City Hall is being remodeled, and so Waite Park City Hall will not be a polling place for August and November, and that was moved to the Ledge Amphitheater building, and then Waite Park P3, which I believe was their public works, because they were moving staff to those locations. Waite Park P3 was moved to the Waite Park Community Shelter. So as we get closer to the election, we will notify the registered voters in those locations of their new polling place. If residents are interested in knowing where the polling place is, they can also go to the minvotes.org, the Secretary of State website, to the polling place finder, or they can always call our office as well. We've had some questions on combining polling places. Now for school district, we did have a couple of school district elections, special elections this year, and it is really up to the school districts if they want to combine their polling places. If they want to combine their polling places for the next year, by December 31st, we need to receive a resolution from those school districts combining polling places. For the county, we are unable to combine polling places by state statute. We have to use the last polling places from that previous state election. So at the county level, we're not able to combine polling places.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Persky.
Yeah, Roxanne, I know that seems to be a bit of an issue. When it comes to primaries and special election, oftentimes our numbers are very low.
They are.
And like with the school district, they're able to combine those and then reduce it so that maybe you have two polling places instead of 15 or whatever.
Correct.
But obviously there's a financial burden when you have to have all those polling places open and get such a low turnout. Randy, is there any effort, at least when we see turnouts that are in primaries like this, to get that statute changed? Or is it that firm that we just go with it? I mean, we're not the only county that deals with it. We're not the only city that would deal with it.
It happens more in school. It happens more in school districts, right? Yeah. And they are able to reduce it if they plan ahead, right? I don't know if that is a current legislative priority item, but it's something we can look to add. So
Yeah,
certainly
well,
could be changed, yeah.
just my experience with Sartell, I mean, we've had, polling places open all day, and you get
Right.
8 voters.
Yeah,
Yeah, and if they were well informed, they could still get their vote and go to the right spot. But again, the cost is tremendous. So,
especially now that we're seeing so much absentee balloting, right? So you make a good point.
correct, yeah, so I don't know if it's worth trying to make a change or not, but anyway,
Well,
just,
no, I think it's a good point, and we'll look into that.
all right.
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, to that point, that I have a question. I mean, one of the things that's hard, at least I know the school district around here, it's 742, the St. Cloud area one, tries to do them all because when they've consolidated them, people get confused and then they don't go. Even though they send them information, right? They send them, and that costs money too, because they have to send every time they change it. It sounds like we'll have to do that in the cases of those 3. So there certainly are pros and cons. And I brought this up at the last meeting. August is a horrible time for a primary or an election, and we should anticipate if that ultimately is the election, it will be even lower because, let's face it, school's not in, people are gone. It's, Minnesota, but we'll wait and see. What I didn't see on here, and Randy, you just referred to absentee. Are people going to be able to do mail-in, and what's the process? I just didn't see that on the slides.
Yeah,
Roxanne?
No, go ahead, Rob.
yeah, the absentee process, we will have that in person, and they also have the option to do mail-in. They can request an absentee ballot through the mail. The online process through the Secretary of State is not available during some special elections. So we will have information on our website related to absentee voting, how to get an application, in-person hours and locations as well.
Mr. Chair, one more
Commissioner
question on
Clark.
that, because I've gotten questions about this already, is if somebody has signed up, as it were, to be permanently doing absentee by mail, will they automatically get it in this, given it's such a different situation?
That is correct, yep. If someone signs up to be on the permanent list, they will automatically get a ballot mailed to them, no matter what election is taking place in their district. So whether they live in a township or a city, any election that takes place in their district, they will get a ballot.
Thanks.
And unlike other communities where there's mail-in ballots only, I assume none of these precincts are exclusive mail-in.
Correct, right.
Typically, that just doesn't happen in the metro area like it does in communities.
Normally because of the
prohibited.
size of them, right?
Yeah.
A male can only do it if below, 500 or
Okay.
something like that. So,
Got it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I hear about
Commissioner
that
Clark.
often from precincts who have under that magical number, but because they're part of a community that's larger, they will ask, how come others get to do that, but we don't? But you know what? It's really more about, in some ways, about the access in the variety of ways to our voters, and we know that it's also more challenging for you all because you're basically having to do 2 different kinds of elections.
Yeah, so they, as Roxanne was mentioning, they can always sign up to be a permanent absentee, and then they'll get their ballot every time. So for them, it's kind of like mail balloting, right? So.
And of course, the balance is being accessible, that people can vote, to the cost. That's a very fine line. And unfortunately, I mean, at best, if we get 2,500 people to show up, I'd be
We're
happy.
hoping for more than that, but we'll
And-
see.
Well, and again, I hope I'm wrong, but I mean, that's the unfortunate part if you go by history. I think in the general election, if I remember right, and in fact, I think I asked Randy to confirm that because in my mind, I remember, I think 7,000 people voted in the general election in that district. 15,000 people voted in my district in that election. So already, a much lower turnout in a general election. And I could be off on that, but you can let me know. But the point is there's less people voting already. Then it's a special election and the folks aren't paying attention. And with a $210 million budget and 1,000 staff, Stearns County Commissioner position is very, very important, as important, if not more important than some of the other elections. And yet people aren't paying attention. We only can do so much. So it's just really encouraging. And as long as I'm asking questions, just to confirm, I know this is accurate, but for the public, whoever wins this election will have to run again next year. even though they
Correct.
just got elected now.
Right.
They will have to run again next year for that regular term then, if you want to call it that.
Right, so the
Yep.
special election, they are filling the remainder of the term. And then once the term is up, as Laura stated, at the end of this year, they will have to refile for the next election.
And then when they file, I assume that's when you verify that they're living in the district,
Correct.
which of course is the state statute to make sure that we don't go through what the House situation was where the person wasn't a resident of the district. So when they register, if that person weren't in the district, that's when you would tell them, you're not in the district.
When they file, yes,
Yeah.
and they are signing an oath, the affidavit of candidacy saying that they are residing in that location.
I
What
think
if
that was
someone-
part of that filing change where now they actually have to prove their address. That was legislation as of January 1st, where in the past, we would just, look up make sure they were in the district, but now they actually have to prove it with a proof of residency too, so.
So what if someone wanted to file, they weren't in the district, and they said, we're gonna move? I'm just curious.
So within 30 days, they have to live at their location within 30 days of the election. So they would have to prove that residency within that 30 days, so.
So they'd have to come back somehow, and, if they didn't live in the district today,
Right.
and they said, we're gonna move, they'd have to come back at some point to prove that their residence is a certain residence that would be in the district.
Yeah, so our filing actually ends in June 3rd. And then absentee actually starts June 27th already. So absentee is 46 days of the election. Like Terrell said, the summer can be busy. We have 4th of July in there, lots of activities. But people have 46 days to vote in person at the service center before, request a ballot before. But yeah, that 30 days before June 27th falls within that filing period. So they have to be living there as of, tomorrow basically. So when we start filing, so before the election, it would be before the absentee
Before, 30 days before the election.
election. Okay.
Right.
I just can't emphasize how important this election is and how people really need to pay attention to this and, spend 10 minutes at least reviewing and going to vote. Again, it's extremely important. Commissioner Clark, did you have something?
Yeah, it was just actually piggybacking on what you said. You had very similar questions I thought were important to get out. One of the things that is different is in a legislative district, you have to have lived there 6 months before the election, which is why it was particularly crazy it didn't get caught in that one. This one, it's harder because it is only the month before what the election is. And of course, they don't know for sure which day our election will be on. So it's a little crazy. It's better, obviously, if they already live there.
Any other questions right now? If not, you can
Right.
continue.
Right, so once we've had the election day, we get into the canvassing. Canvassing will take place Wednesday, October 13th, and Wednesday, November 5th. For the canvassing board, there are 2 county commissioners that will be appointed to serve on the canvassing board for August and November. County board must review and approve the results before they are official. The person who is elected at the special election shall take office immediately after the receipt of the campaign finance report and they receive the certificate of election. They are sworn into office at the next board meeting to serve the remainder of the unexpired term at that point.
And I brought this up at the last meeting. I really think it's important that we schedule a meeting right after the election, as soon as we can, to bring that person on because of the vacancy. So even though I don't think we should have to wait a week or 2 for a meeting, I don't think none of us would mind having a 10-minute meeting to make it official that they're immediately on, but that's a discussion we can have.
Mr. Chair, I don't know what official duty they would have to do. I mean, they can obviously be talking to their constituents.
Right.
Yeah, and there would be no vote that they would have to be, we could.
Well, it's something we can talk about. I think
All right.
I think it's maybe more of a perceptional thing, but, that it won't be official, I guess, but we can talk about that. But the point is, having the election like we're having it, we have to use these dates, and then getting that person seated, as soon as we can,
Right,
I think
absolutely.
is important.
So, yeah, just remember there has to be, the canvas has to happen, and then they have to file some campaign finance reports before we can certify them. So there's a few things that happen.
It might have to take a little bit of time anyway.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how.
Shouldn't take a long time, but it could take a few days, right?
How soon after the November 4th, if there is a primary, or do we meet, I guess? We have a meeting on November 4th.
Right.
That won't do any good. So we won't meet again, obviously, until November 18th then. So 14 days later, 2 weeks after the election. And again, we can have that discussion, I guess, but 2 weeks after an election might be a long time, but we'll figure that out. Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, and I know from my experience, usually in between that time, staff, department heads contact, you and say, hey, you want to come on in? We'll kind of explain what our department does. So, I think there's a little educational stuff that would probably happen anyway before that.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, they can attend their committees as well. That wouldn't, preclude them from being able to do those either. So.
Well, Mr. Chair, that's
Commissioner
what we'll
Clark.
have to figure out, is
Yeah.
what committees they're gonna have. So that would be part of the reason that we'll need to figure that out. And, they'll be able to hit the ground running and hopefully get to that first meeting afterwards. Or if we have a special one, that will probably be easier to get set up in November than I'm guessing the end of August. So it might still be after Labor Day, but we'll get it figured out and staff will help us do that. And hopefully there are people who are considering this are watching our meetings, because as you pointed out, Mr. Chair, this is very important. It's very multifaceted, and we're all available to be, meeting with folks. And certainly I've been encouraging anybody interested to contact, Dr. Williams, and he'd help figure out who else to connect them, but also everybody, all of our board members. It's good for people to talk to, learn.
And I'm not sure what more we can do, the website, these meetings, whatever, if there's something we can do that's not traditional, let's certainly think about that.
And not
Getting
to
the
jinx
word
it,
out.
And not to jinx it, but, there's always a possibility of a recount, right? So if it is close, so we never really know, right?
Well, the good news is there won't be 15,000 ballots to count. Well, I shouldn't say the good news. The bad news is there won't be 15,000 ballots to count, so. Okay.
All right, so following our presentation today, there will be a couple board action items. And one of them will be to appoint commissioners to the canvassing board. So we will talk about that once we finish this. So as we talk about some past special elections, the last county commissioner special election that we had was in 2013. Our overall turnout for that November election was 25%. And then for the general election, that was held in January 28th of 2014, and that turnout was 14%. So.
Which in numbers, the 14% was 2,000 voters, if I remember right.
A little over.
It was a little over. I think for the primary, we had like 6 or 7 candidates, and then it was narrowed down to the 2 for the January.
So that when you say a little over, like 100 over or 500 over, about how many voters is what I think it was.
It was a little over 2,100.
Okay, so 2,100. Again, just to compare, again, that's my paranoia of the turnout. Again, whatever we can do. The League of Women Voters representative is here and everything, promote this and get people filing, get the other organizations that promote this, promoting it. And certainly, I think we've all gotten calls, so there is some interest. There are people that are asking questions and everything, so that's good, so.
And Mr. Chair, I think we shouldn't understate the helpfulness of 742 needing to do an election at the same time, and this district is entirely within it. It's not throughout the whole school district, but at least there are going to be people who will be coming out for more than one thing, which is helpful, right? Which is different than a January or February or March. And hopefully, if it is November, there will be plenty of time for people to have heard this and seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so some things we have going on here in 2025. As Terrell said, we have the 742 school district special election November 4th. We have Holden Ford School District. This is their regular school election. They are always an odd year election. And then we have our commissioner vacancy also on November 4th. So those are the elections that we have coming up this year yet.
Little different than last year,
It
or 2 years ago.
Yes, yeah. So some considerations that we are, you know, we always are planning ahead. We've always, every election, we learn from the last one. And so looking into 2026, we will still have the direct voting locations. We do have 9 locations, with Melrose having all the ballots for Stearns County at this point. So we will be, you know, looking into giving them some additional support and training. Our St. Cloud absentee location, as in the past, we do plan to have the Lake George Municipal Complex as well as the Stearns County Service Center as our absentee locations. And again, both locations will host all of Stearns County precincts for those absentee locations.
So for all 3 of those elections, they're gonna be able to vote at,
This is for 2026.
oh, I'm sorry.
This is looking ahead to 2026.
So how are we handling the absentee in the District 4?
That is all at Stearns County Service Center,
Yep,
starting June 27th from 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, and then that Saturday, August 9th, is from 9 to 3.
got it. Okay,
That concludes our presentation. We're ready for
Is there-
questions or board
Yeah, if
action
there's any
items?
other questions, and then we do have a couple action items, so.
I think we asked our questions. So for the first item, I personally will not be able to be, I'm gonna be out of town on August 13th. Commissioner Notch, as vice chair, said he was gonna be here, so it'd have to be one of you two,
And-
Persky or Clark.
And Mr. Chair, I cannot that
Okay.
day. I could do the November one, but I can't do the August one. We
So
have a
for-
mic, we
for
have a, we have
August-
a, we have a mic and board meeting that day.
So
So if it was in the morning, I could.
What's
I-
at 3 o'clock?
It's at 3 p.m.
But you're chair.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're trying to get people there in person, but you're right. I mean, I have to. I don't have a choice.
So for the 13th, then, we're gonna do this in one motion for both elections. So for the 13th, it would have to be Commissioner Notch and Commissioner Persky.
I think the 13th is
If you're
open.
Okay.
available.
So then it would have to be them for the 13th. And then on the 4th, I certainly would be able to do that and would, you know, offer to
And I
do
can
that. And
too.
I don't know if you want to do the chair, vice chair, or if you
Would
want to
that be
do.
on the 4th or the 5th?
No, the 5th.
That would be the
Fifth.
5th, and that next
Well,
afternoon.
I would suggest, since 2 are doing it in August, 2 of us do it in November, and we're done with it.
I have a haircut appointment. No, I'm kidding. I don't. The 4th would work for, or the 5th would work for me.
Yeah.
Yep. So, is that, then we need a motion that Commissioner Notch, Commissioner Persky would do August 13th, and then Commissioner Clark and I would do it on November 5th. So if somebody can make that motion.
Oh, so moved.
Okay. Commissioner Persky makes that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Clark seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, that passes. And then motion to approve the resolution establishing absentee ballots, the board for the 2025 election.
Pretty normal thing, we do that
Yeah.
every year, so.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Notch moves. Commissioner Persky seconds. Was that a second?
Yeah, it was a second.
Oh, I didn't know if it was a clear in your throat or a second. Okay, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Well, thank you, Roxanne
All right,
and
thank you.
Laura. Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think also the 3 of them, as far as handling the elections and some of the scrutiny we've been under over the past couple of years, you folks have done an outstanding job, so thank you much.
Thank
for
you.
that work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep doing it for all of our purposes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, with that, issues by commissioners, short meeting. We didn't even have to take a bathroom break this morning, so. Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, I just was going to bring this up. So last week we had a Soccer Watershed Policy Committee meeting for the One Watershed, One Plan. And they've started doing something pretty unique. One of the agencies, there's 9, either soil and water counties involved. They bring up a project that they've completed. So this last one was actually a manure pit closure in Todd County. So what they started focusing on now is there's so many feedlots where, farmers have quit milking cows or, quit having livestock, so they got all these lagoons sitting there not being used on these farms anymore. So they actually had one that was within, I think it was 500 feet of Sauk Lake. So basically the producer worked with Soil and Water got a 75% cost share grant, and they used that to close his lagoon, which was an earthen clay lined manure pit, not a concrete one, not a membrane lined one. And it was amazing, just the discussions, that process, because nobody realized over all these years, like I think the one on our farm was put in the late 70s, early 80s. She said below that clay lining even, it still managed to leach down anywhere from 6 inches to 12 inches of contaminated soil. And the biggest things in there are nitrogen, fecal coliform, and phosphorus. So you don't want, obviously, the coliform to get into, the drinking water, so to speak, the underground water. And it was always interesting. I never understood why we had 2 of them. One of ours is closed. Why they put a tile line around the outside of the manure pit. And we had one, there's never a drop of water that came out of that tile line. Well, come to find out from Teich from Todd County, the reason they do that, because there is water flowing underground, and they don't want that water to put the pressure on the manure pit that you can't see, so that infiltrates those manure pits actually from the bottom because of the water pressure. So they put the tile line around it to alleviate that pressure, to keep the clean water away from the lagoon. So it's kind of nice. So these are projects they're working on. And I thought, well, hopefully, in Stearns County, Soil and Water maybe starts, implementing. I know Becky was on from the county, and there was somebody there from Soil and Water. So I thought this is a very good project to maybe get some of these earthen lagoons closed that are just sitting there. It's expensive to close them. They get grant funded, put them in, and it's mainly just the earthen clay line ones, not the concrete ones so much, not the ones with the membranes. That's more of the new technology. So yeah, so it was kind of interesting. So I think everybody, had a big appreciation for, hey, maybe it's time to look at some of these and clean them up, close them up, get rid of the contamination, and do good.
I'm curious, Commissioner Notch, that 6 to 12 inches of the does it like get to that level and stay there, or does it
depends
keep?
on how much, because you get that bluish colored clay, which is impenetrable. A lot of times that's also underneath there. So it basically, whatever kind of got disturbed but yet compacted, it seems to have been able to get in that layer, but it doesn't seem to go beyond that.
And that's a good point. Maybe we could ask Soil and Water, Mike, how many pits are there? I mean, there's got to be thousands.
Yeah,
Of pits in Stearns County. Can we ask Soil and Water how many there are? And then the irony or the unfortunate part is, during my time in Planning Commission, some of these we approved and some of these were cost shared. And for whatever reason, which I found that odd, they would not tell you how much the cost of a manure system cost. So, but what I did was, of course, leave it to me. I went back and looked at the minutes. It was in their minutes. And I mean, some of these were literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, and within 5 years, they weren't being used.
Right.
And now you've got a pit that you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on creating. Now it's abandoned, and then now we the Soil and Water does do a cost sharing on closing them, but it's somewhat minimum, I think. But so we paid to put them in. We're paying to take them out, but at least they're removed, because otherwise you've got a lagoon that literally can continue to fill up with water, even if you're not filling it up with manure.
And the biggest thing is the sludge that's in the bottom, because when they clean these manure pits, they agitate it, but you never get the bottom totally clean. So the biggest issue is there's so much sludge, just like municipal treatment ponds in these small communities. They have to go out and dredge the sludge out. Most of the time, these manure pits don't have that done because they agitate it. Another unfortunate thing of technology is the new agitation systems have so much pressure, that they can actually eat into the clay sidewalls, and then you break that barrier, for contaminants to move out. But yeah, so this was a 75% cost share on basically it was a low bid was $30,000 roughly. So yeah, so $22,000 was paid for by grant funds.
For a closure.
For a closure.
I'll I'll ask the question, Mike, and share it with everybody, because I've got a couple others, but I'll share then what they respond to the board and to you. I'm just curious, that's a good point. Commissioner Persky?
A couple things. First of all, Memorial Day coming up this next weekend. So hope folks can get out and observe a Memorial Day and honor those folks that paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. And then also, the last few weeks and even today, you know, we've heard concerns about outdoor music. And this is an issue I don't think is necessarily going to go away. And we continue to hear about things from Milk and Honey, and we continue to hear from the folks from St. Wendell Township as well. And Jeff and I had sat on the board when we approved Milk and Honey, and initially we had 12 events, and now that is escalated into, they have 40 events during the summer. So that's just about every weekend. And I wonder if it's time, or I think it's time that we maybe start addressing the issue is, when is it that, you know, these music events have a negative impact on the neighborhood? And that's in our standards, that's in our comp plan, that it should not have an adverse effect. If we had a house that was abutting one of these properties, would we want to give up every weekend of our peace and quiet to have to listen to that music? We've done things with sheds, we've done things with solar gardens, we've done things with vacation home rentals where we've set some standards because we saw a need to do that. And so what happens when the next issue comes? Are we going to say the same reaction from the neighbors? And again, I don't think I would want that in my neighborhood. I don't think any of us would want it in our neighborhood. So we are going to be discussing it at the Planning Commission as far as some of those standards are. And I think it's maybe time we take a look at having something that's a little more protective to the neighborhoods. So that's all I got.
And maybe, I'm not sure if it's time for a work group or something, but I think we got to get away from the noise levels and the ordinance and just limit it by days and hours of operation, because I think former Supervisor Gonringer said it best. He said noise monitoring is just like a speed limit. You know, if any of us drive down the freeway, you're going 70, 75 miles an hour, which is already too fast. You still get past like you're standing still. So you can enforce a speed limit, but you can't do it by noise or something. So I think somehow I don't know if it's time for a work group to be proactive to come up with some standards. And to me, it would be just like what we do on sandpits, where we limit the hours, we limit the days. That's more enforceable. You know you're not supposed to be doing it on Sunday or Saturday afternoon or whatever. But anyway, I'm not sure if now is the time to have a work group. We've done it on solar, wind, a lot of other things, but something to think about. Commissioner Clark?
I think, appreciate all of those things, and it actually makes me wonder, Steve, with what you were bringing up, is the watershed district looking at going more broad, and will the other districts that we're part of, will that end up ultimately being one of the strategies that we all share? And I'll follow up with Becky asking about that, because obviously she's working with all of us on those. I think the big thing, obviously, this is, it was brought up kind of earlier, this is theoretically the last constitutional day of session, and they're not done. They've got a lot of work to do. My comments are not to disparage them at all. They've got a pretty hard task right now, and just actually getting to the point where they can get enough people voting for any of these things is hard, and there are still some real issues in front of our property taxpayers, our residents with significant needs, and the work people are doing, talking to legislators, and really appreciate Melissa and Jill having been down there last week. We just need to keep it up. It is not too late. If you have a concern out there that you're talking to your legislators, I just want to keep emphasizing that, because even though it feels like, and it's at the end, there's lots of hot temperatures there, a lot of non-sleepy, or I'm upside down still from coming back from seeing our family in France. So I'm a little upside down. But people are sleep deprived, and they have to come up with some good solutions. And so really appreciate our own delegation, but they've got to figure this out. So there is time, and the way it works at the very end is hours can feel like a week, weeks can feel like a month. So just know that your voice still matters. Please, please, please reach out.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Bruce.
to Terrell's point, has there been any good news that's come out as far as any progress on, avoiding the increases that we're looking at? Has anybody seen those?
Potentially. That's all you can, right? I mean, it's potentially right now.
No.
I don't think I can answer that, Commissioner Bruce.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can at this point.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of are realized it's not going to be totally removed. I mean, there will be some. And people are, Commissioner Clark did a joint letter with several people that's been in all the papers. People are understanding this. I mean, I've been getting emails, and the emails largely are, or the calls, texts, whatever, are saying, well, don't raise our property taxes. And I explained to them, we won't have a choice. If $8 million is removed from us getting paid for services and we're mandated to do the services, what are we supposed to do? I mean, and it really is truly unfortunate. I mean, it's a double kick in the butt. I mean, it's just unbelievable that would happen. And so, again, remove the funding, okay, I can live with that, but remove the mandate. I mean, making us do something that you were making us do and paying for is just uncomprehendable to me, and that is huge. And we're gonna have, every county's gonna have a problem, but I really feel sorry for those small counties with more limited budgets, and their increases are gonna be way beyond that. So, and then of course, if people aren't paying attention, okay, now you don't know this is all going on, you're not weighing in on the legislative process, and all of a sudden you get that 8, 10%, whatever, because of those actions, and then we'll get blamed for it. We were being held hostage.
Right, and Mr. Chair, that's, I think, a big part of certainly my point, and you've just done a great job furthering that, is that these are mandatory services with, frankly, a lot of providers that aren't able to necessarily pay good wages, and so they've fought to try to get better wages so they can actually get any staff to do it. And then that costs more money, and an aging population, which means there's going to continue to be more and more vulnerable people in there, and there's no changes to any of what is a possibility for folks. And if you pair that with what they are looking at right now in Congress, people who need long-term care facilities, rural or not rural, people who have significant mental health issues, they're going to have a problem. People who need other types of help from a developmental disability or a traumatic brain injury, it's pretty big deal stuff. And to your point, people are paying through income taxes, to some extent sales taxes, and now they will be forced to pay through property taxes, and that's not something any of us believe should happen, but we will not have a choice, as you just very eloquently said, and people just need to know that they are essentially raising property taxes, and they're not talking about it. Now, we do have there's a few champions down there right now. There's, in the Senate in particular, there is some of what has come through recently. If they would adopt it, will forestall some of this, but we'll have to keep working on solutions, because again, the group we're talking about is going to continue to get older and continue to have more needs. And so,
I've never been a part of or seen where the dissension within both parties is as high as it is after a deal is done. I mean, that is awkward as heck. I mean, so while the deal is being announced, you got protesters outside the governor's office. Normally when the deal was done, that the caucuses already have been kind of bought into it, and it's all, but I mean, this is far from over. And the unfortunate part for me is that the extremes are coming out again, where the compromise isn't there, and the extremes on both sides are coming back out. And what that does is leaves us vulnerable. I mean, we've got our nose to the grindstone, we're doing what we need to be doing and whatever, and we're gonna be affected by their, I don't know what you wanna call it.
Ineffectiveness.
And unfortunately, we're seeing that not only in St. Paul, but also in DC.
So anyway, other than that, today's a good day. That's it. And then for me, I'll just say two things. One, the obviously electronic collection was a big hit. I would assume that we're going to address or follow up with some announcement that I've asked for of saying, yep, this was overwhelming, we weren't planning on this, sorry, they did, I talked to someone that was in line for 2 hours and it was shut down, which is understandable, I guess, but obviously totally not expected and hard to plan for. But now that we know that, I would assume and I would hope that we would do a follow-up. And then, of course, do it someplace other than the hazardous waste site, some open parking lot, huge parking lot or something, because who was there? Steve and I had to go to the West Service Center. Well, I came from downtown and went by Mills Fleet, and the cars were backed up, and I saw lights, and I thought, ooh, there was an accident at the roundabout. Hell, it wasn't an accident. They were lined up all the way to Mills Fleet, all the way to 23, and then sideways. Yep. And if I wouldn't have known my way through the parking lots, I would have never got to the West Service Center. So just Steve and I drove through it. Maybe somebody else did, but unbelievable. But anyway, good news. People got the unfortunate part. Again, and all of us will have suggestions, I think, moving forward. Plus, I have done community cleanup, so I have a little bit of experience of how and what to do. The unfortunate part is the guy that was in line for 2 hours, the guy behind him had 2 keyboards. That's all he had. So, I mean, is there a way that I said, if I had the old farm boy in me, I would have jumped in some side-by-sides and just went, through the line and said, what do you got? And just taken it to get the cards out of the line. But anyway, that, and then to Steve's point, when I was on the planning commission, I tried to get the watershed district to come before us because permits, everybody's got to get a permit. And I never understood for what, and I wanted that explained, and they were unwilling to come to the planning commission to explain that. But John did say that he'd be willing to come to the board level to explain a little bit of what they do, because I'll be honest with you, you're on the board, I'm not. I really don't 100% know how they operate, and they certainly have a huge taxing authority. I think it would be helpful for all of us to kind of get an understanding of what it is that they do. How can they do it better? How can we work with them better? So if we could do that sometime. He had some surgeries coming up, so I don't know how long he's going to be out. But
yeah, and Mr. Chair, just to add to that, they're also working on trying to create efficiencies, because a watershed might say you need a permit if you disturb 200 square feet, whereas the county is like 500 square feet. So they are working with the entities to get this more in line. And then the permitting is another issue, like who should be in charge of the permit, because you don't want to have to go to watershed. Well, first the county says you got to go to watershed and get another permit, but you have to go over here. And yeah, there was a kind of a lengthy discussion at the policy meeting, which isn't the watershed meeting, but the watershed, that's part of what the watershed's trying to do too, is get things in line so there isn't confusion on how much square feet you can disturb, different parameters. They kind of want to get it so they're all on the same page.
The permitting issue I had when I was on planning was they required the permit, but they never went on site. They never looked at anything. It's like a building permit. When you get a building permit for a shingling job, the building inspector comes and looks to make sure the shingles are being put on right. Well, this permit was required and they never came out, and I didn't understand what was the validity of that. And most recently, there was a farm project that was done 2 years after the fact. They were sent a letter saying that they had to pay for a permit for the project. It was already completed, it was already done. They were not gonna come and look, so that's what I started interacting with John with. But again, that doesn't make any sense to me, and what you're saying makes sense.
No, that's what they're working on.
Do it in uniformity. Yeah. And then I did have a site visit, several site visits with Jodi on Friday, and just what we learned, like what you just said, and this is not a county issue, and yet I hope we can lead for some change. But when we do county road projects or any projects, of course, you get the utilities in to do their markings. Well, some of the utilities use metal flags, wire flags. Some of them use plastic. Well, those metal flags, which I've never heard of because we didn't have a chopper like this, they don't pull them. Well, the chopper comes in, these $500,000 choppers. Well, they've got metal detectors on it, and as small as a wire, it'll shut the chopper down. And the guy this isn't why we were meeting. It was a secondary conversation. He said, so now my chopper shuts down, I've got 3 semis waiting for that chopper to fill up, and we've got to find these little pieces of wire to get them out of there so that the choppers start. So again, it's not a county issue, and yet I said, well, I can't believe that we can't require the Utilities Commission to say only use plastic flags, you know, to get away from. But again, until someone says that, I never heard of it. I never realized it was a problem. And of course, they're not going to pull the flags. The guy said, well, they should pull the flag. Well, I said, that's never going to happen. But certainly, it would be a simple thing to go from wire to plastic. But anyway, these are the things that we certainly. And Commissioner Persky mentioned Memorial Day. Yes, let's all please remember those that fought for our freedom, both who are still here and have the others who have gone to a better place. Certainly, let's remember them. So, if nothing else, for the good of the order, meeting's adjourned.